What is her political legacy? And what about the stakes for those upcoming by-elections, not only in University Rosedale, but we know a number of others are coming? Let's bring back the front bench. Sabrina Grover, Melanie Paradis, and Carl Boulanger. Sabrina, let's start on her legacy, and let's start with you there. How do you think she will be remembered?
You know, I think when I think about Chrystia Freeland, I think about a real powerhouse in Canadian politics. And I think somebody who is well respected, not just by Liberals across the country, but also by Conservatives. I think evidenced, of course, by her very close relationship with Doug Ford, though I don't know if they ever had any sleepovers together like Doug Ford and Mark Carney. But, you know, I think that Freeland demonstrated not just skill in her portfolios, but real tact. And certainly as Minister of Foreign Affairs, the negotiation of CUSMA Round 1, her engagements when Russia invaded Ukraine back in 2022, as a parliamentarian, as a leader in Canada, I think that she has a lot to be proud of. I think her legacy, of course, in finance, not only being the first finance minister, but of course bringing in childcare across the country is really, really important and is something that we'll remember for a long time. And I think that she can be proud of her career as a parliamentarian.
Mel, is it difficult for somebody who likes to sit in the opposition side or the opposite aisle to try and think of all the good that she may have done?
Of course, you know, there were a lot of things that I disagreed with Chrystia Freeland on over the course of the years, especially when it came to the economy and to the finances of the country. However, especially after Putin's illegal invasion of Ukraine, she really demonstrated incredible fortitude, and I had deep respect for her approach to defending the people of Ukraine and standing up against Putin. And I think a lot of Canadians, regardless of their partisanship, felt the same way in those moments with her. And so that's how I'm going to remember her time in politics. But I do think that I would be remiss if I didn't say that she will also be remembered for the downfall of Justin Trudeau. She will be remembered for the end of his political career.
Also, Carl, when you consider that she was the finance minister and she did, in that letter, call them political gimmicks and reject all of them, she was the one that stood by them originally.
Exactly. I mean, it was the most scathing resignation letter in the history of Canadian politics, perhaps. But the things she was complaining about in the letter are the things that she brought forward as finance minister. She did not put her foot down when it was time to do it, before moving forward. And that's a problem. And I think she was always more comfortable in her role as with foreign affairs and trade negotiation that she was in finance. But the truth is that she will be remembered as the one who brought down Justin Trudeau. She's the one who did it single-handedly. She was not really rewarded for that. The Liberal membership certainly did not support her in a way that they could have if they thought that was the right thing to do. But I think right now, you know, people in the Liberal ranks are quite happy that she did what she did because they are a seat or 2 seats away from a majority, and that's because she was able to bring down Justin Trudeau by that spectacular move before Christmas 2025.
Yeah, and we don't want to change
2024, sorry.
2024, right. It seems like it all... 2025, what was 2025, really, when we think about it, right? Not to change the channel on this, but certainly to change streaming services with a little bit of a nod to Minister Freeland there. Sabrina, we're going to have some by-elections. University Rosedale, for sure. We know that there's also going to be one for Matt Genereux. There are other questions about whether or not there are other MPs who will be saying adieu on Parliament Hill. How important is this now going forward? And I say that because, as Carl mentioned, right now, as we sit, yes, Freeland's seat is no longer occupied, so they're 2 seats away from a majority, even though it is vacant at this point. But how important are these now going forward? Because there could be changes here, even though with some of the thoughts of where some of these by-elections could be, that they may still be in you know, strongholds for whoever is holding it now. What are your thoughts on, you know, how that's going to look and how things could change in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to June 2024 when we had the Toronto-St. Paul by-election, and you know, stakes were dire for the Liberals in 2024, and thankfully we've reclaimed that seat. But we've had a lot of you know, ups and downs in the GTA. I think about Toronto-York as a seat that we lost in the last election, and I think that's an important loss, and like I think that's something that we certainly need to think back about how the Liberals get that seat back. University of Rosedale, I think, will be important because it will be important to see how Carney's politics over the last year has played out in the GTA. And I think he's done a lot to strengthen his relationship with Doug Ford as well. I think that that has been positive, and I think that you often see folks who vote for Doug Ford also vote or vote progressively conservative in Ontario, also vote Liberal federally. And so I think that that seat will be an important marker of where things go. The Matt Genereux seat, I think Mark Carney's made a lot of inroads here in Alberta, but I by no means am convinced that we're going to win more seats in Alberta, despite things like the MOU. And then whether or not more seats come up and how Mark Carney plays out the rest of, the next 6 months, whether there's a cabinet shuffle, a couple of more people leaving, I think that'll be important. Overall, his ratings are extremely high. He's still very well liked by the Canadian population. All of his engagements, all of his international trips have been pretty well received. And I think the bigger question for me is, how do the Conservatives survive just Pierre Poilievre's leadership review in the next couple of weeks, and what does that look like for their by-election prospects?
Yeah, Mel, no doubt that is a factor in this. One of the things that sort of strikes me, though, is that Mark Carney has always kind of said he's not a politician, even though, he proved that he was a pretty good one in recruiting people over to his side of the aisle. But how much of a test are these by-elections going to be for him as a political animal as well?
I think University of Rosedale in particular will be a test for whether he can attract an all-star candidate, because that's a seat that's a pretty safe Liberal seat. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of seat where you want to cherry pick someone with an excellent resume who in a general election, in any other seat, you'd never be able to get them to leave their job and to run. This is a great opportunity to be able to say, like, look, you're somebody I want to put in cabinet. We're going to line up University of Rosedale for you, and you'll be an MP for years to come. Mm-hmm. It's a great offer, and so we'll see if he's able to execute on that and who he's able to get. I'm thinking of someone like a Tim Hodgson. Like that's the kind of caliber of people who I think he wants to be putting in his cabinet to kind of get rid of some of the old Trudeau cabinet era people. And when it comes to Alberta, I mean that's definitely a tighter riding. So the ability to attract a really good Liberal candidate to run in that seat will be harder, because it's not a straight shot.
Is it a test for the Conservatives, though?
In any riding, like in any urban riding that, I wouldn't call it a swing riding, but it's certainly close. Yeah. Of course, people are going to view it as a test. I think they've had a really strong showing there before. Conservatives are really great in by-elections. We've got great get out the vote and strong campaigners. So I'm not worried about that, but I think it will be interesting to watch what the Liberals do there.
How much of a test is it, Carl, for Carney to be able to attract somebody big in University of Rosedale?
Well, it's not a test as much as it is an opportunity, because I think Rosedale will be a Liberal seat at the end of the by-election. Mm-hmm. Traditionally the NDP is usually second place, between 20 and 30%. Was not the case last time. And if the Liberals were not popular right now, the Conservatives could potentially have a shot. I don't think they do. But it's an opportunity for him to attract new talent, people that somebody that Canadians have not heard about maybe or thought about as a politician. It's a great opportunity. And if I was the Prime Minister, I would call it by-election sooner rather than later, because who knows when Mr. Genereux will actually resign. I mean, the spring is from March to June. Right. You need that vote. You need that vote in the House, because it's very tight. And, if you want to get that legislative agenda to go through, you need all the support you can get. So don't wait, call that by-election, and hopefully recruit a star candidate that can bring new blood into the Liberal Party.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you to the Friday Front Bench, Sabrina Grover, Melanie Paradis, and Carl Belanger.